You. So tell us a little bit about Nia.
For sure, for sure. My name is Nia Alexander, and I started coming to Champion Center around December. That was when Scrooge was going on, so I met like 1,005 people at one time. I was like, what's your name? You know, but it was great. Started coming here, but my life really changed, especially with my relationship with God, when I became a Division I athlete. When we have insecurities and hurts that we don't deal or heal from, it oftentimes plays out in our life. And for me, the narratives that I was wrestling with was from what I experienced growing up. I oftentimes felt like I didn't fit in. I was bullied a lot because of my skin color. And when I saw myself as a young girl on TV or on magazines and shows, I wasn't smart, I wasn't the love interest. I was like the dumb, ugly slave or a crackhead or a baby mama or something. And for me, I was running away from those narratives, like sprinting as fast as I can, but instead of going to God, I went to material things, I went to attention from men, I went to anything but Him. I poured my identity into my sport, and I really had a prodigal season to where I grew up in the church, I knew God, but I didn't truly know and believe and trust that God, what I wanted, the feeling of love and acceptance and self-worth, it was the only one that could give it to me, right? I didn't truly believe that, and that's when it just all got worse.
But here's the thing about your story. I want to interrupt you for just a second because I think sometimes, even though our young gals that are in the room right now, you think Nia has it all together. I mean, you have a great family, you come from a great family, you're a Division I basketball player. You're at the peak, right? You're what every young girl who's playing basketball desires to have, and yet you're living that, and it's not quite the dream you thought it was going to be.
It wasn't for one single second. I got an injury, I had Achilles surgery, that was like a 1.5 year recovery. During COVID, my roommate robbed me, like took all my stuff. She jumped in the front room. No, like it was crazy. It was one of those seasons where you feel like things keep hitting you.
Yeah.
Like you can't get in the air. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And then COVID hit, and I fell into depression, extreme anxiety to where I felt it in my gut. And I didn't understand why God led me into the desert and He was so silent. I didn't understand why the more I sought Him, the more problems I faced. And the more that I tried to be perfect, the more things fell apart. And I really struggled majority of my college career, which was 6 years, because of my injury and COVID. The NCAA gave us another year.
And how old are you now, just so we can...
I'm 25 years old.
She's 25 years old and talking like this. This is incredible. Tell us, okay, so how did you get to the other side? Tell us how you had some opportunities, even in the WNBA, like you had some opportunities, and talk to us about how you are here right now, Nia, and how God brought you to this moment.
Yeah, for sure. His faithfulness, His word. So when I was in college, I didn't really have a church home. It was hard for me to find time to do that, especially with sports and traveling. So it was His word that kept me. Like, no matter what culture says, that book is alive. Like, His word is healing, and it's restoring, and it's redeeming, and that's what He's done to me. Like, He's literally restored my narrative. Like, I don't even get hype, you know, when I get certain compliments, because I know what it's like to be in that scarcity. To like everything I tried to put my identity in, God stripped it of me. And He met me in the valley, and I realized that He was speaking to me that whole time. I just wasn't listening because I was stuck on my plan and what I wanted. But when I finally surrendered and I said, God, it's all You. I don't care what I have to do. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of being disappointed and thinking it's because of You, but it was really because of the ideas I had in my head. And I got tired of holding up this facade that I'm perfect and that I don't really care about things, you know? So when I surrendered, he flooded me in, and he's given me the strength to lead and to serve when I was at my lowest. And I can't make that up. It wasn't my own strength. Like, he's given me those tools, and his manna is fresh and it's new every single day. He is faithful.
You're launching something in your world right now, and you're taking the pain that you've walked through and how God has this is wonderful what you're sharing with us, but you're taking it one step further. What do you feel like God is calling you to do right now in this season?
Yeah, so I'm starting a podcast, everyone. It's for student athletes. I'm pushing positivity, purpose, and peace to all student athletes, because we're not just gonna win in our sport, but in our mind, body, and soul. So good. Hey. I'm launching that actually next week, a couple episodes. So yeah, I felt like God called me to do that. It's tough. I had to make sure that I was healed and that I wasn't speaking from bitterness, because it's really easy to be sour and to kind of, you know, speak on things in a way that kind of calls people out. I didn't want to do that. So he's been continuing to heal me being at this church, being prayed on, being supported. In this season, I was able to find community and be around people who lift me up. You feel me? And not just tearing me down. As women, we need to lift each other up, and we need to be there for one another. It hurts when we're the closest to one another, and when we tear each other down, it's really hard to get up. So I feel blessed that I've been able to be at this church and be around great leadership.
And I just want to acknowledge that your mom is sitting here in the audience today. Mom, thank you for sharing Nia with us. She's a beautiful girl inside and out. Thank you, Nia. Man, we're excited for your future. I have one more question for you, and that's girls sitting out in the audience right now, young women. You talked about anxiety and depression. You talked about how it gripped your heart. What encouragement would you give to these girls? What do you do? You mentioned a little bit about what you did, but what encouragement would you give to them right now?
Yeah. One, watch what you're consuming and protect your heart. Yes. Like, the comparison is real that you mentioned earlier. And like I said in my story, you can't find your identity in anything else but God. I'm gonna just tell you that. Like, you cannot. That is where you need to search. In addition to that, worship is a huge thing. Worship, even when you don't feel like worship, his spirit will flood you, and you will get that peace that surpasses all understanding. I've had many times where I'm crying on the floor like I'm getting a spanking or something, and you know, like them ugly cries, and I would just feel like a blanket come over me. But yeah, find your identity in Him. It's so important. It's gonna affect how you love one another. It's gonna affect how you choose the guys you're dating. I mean, how many of us have chosen men out of broken places, and then we're in a relationship from a broken paradigm of ourselves? So we gotta make sure that we're getting filled up with Christ, and it will help us move forward and be a light in the world.
Well, and your conversation about identity is so critical right now in the world. People are lost and searching for an identity. You talk about how you attached it with the sport. I think a lot of athletes, we have a couple in our family, and if you're not careful, it does becomes your end all be all. And then here's the thing, for those of you parents who are raising athletes right now, be careful. Be really careful that you make everything about that sport for your child, because it will end one day. And if everything about their life is wrapped up in what they do in their performance in a sport, they are going to be so incredibly lost at some point in their life. And so really be careful how much it's like our jobs. We perform our jobs, but our job is not who we are at the end of the day. And I just would really caution you, parents, be careful, because you had great mom and dad who helped you have perspective on sports in general. It ends for everybody at some point, right?
And that praise will get you. Like, it really will. Proverbs 27, it says that gold and silver are tried by fire, but a man is tested by praise. And it's so true. Like, you can get caught seeking that
Yep.
for validation, and
Right.
it feels good, but then when you don't have it, you feel useless.
Yeah.
You feel like you don't have any worth. So the more that we can practice not getting caught up in other people's perspective of us and other people's praise, the better off we'll be able to navigate the waters of life. So
Oh, good. Thank you, Nia.